Welcome in, welcome all. Take a seat, for the show is about to begin. Chronic Nate, your great video escape, will be taking you on an epic journey of the Battlefield 6 beta, a tale of 2 weekends. So sit down, relax, close your eyes just for a moment so I can fill your mind with only the freshest in-house information on the menu. Are you ready? Let's open the curtain into everything you need to know about Battlefield 6. As this is my first video, I feel the need to introduce myself. This is Chronic Nate. This will be the only video I do this, so bear with me or go ahead and skip ahead. I am 27 years old with a wife and 2 daughters, so I'm not all that liquid, meaning my equipment is subpar at best. I record with my phone in my closet after work, and you can expect some human error and even some misinformation. Due to me improvising my script versus reading teleprompter out of fear of sounding like I'm reading a monotonous, emotionless script like my first draft or other channels, you get the enjoyment of hearing my quirks, but feel free to laugh, hate, instigate, or if I'm lucky, congratulate in the comments below. But just like in Battlefield 6, your insight is crucial to my development and my channel. So any and all are welcome. Now that that's over, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So, to start off, let's start off with the first weekend. The concurrent player counts reached up to 330k. Overloading servers. Me personally, I had to wait with a waiting list of up to 250k in line, which was crazy. It was like 30 to 45 minutes. I don't know what you guys had to deal with, but if it was any higher than that, you should let me know in the comments, because I'm really curious how high that number actually reached. We were able to play 3 maps. There's Liberation Peak, which is a mountainous map based in Tajikistan. I butchered that. I totally butchered that. I would consider this one a medium to long range combat style. Lots of snipers, LMGs, longer range assault rifles were used in these areas. They gave us a lot of vehicles. This was probably the most vehicles in any other map that we were able to play with, which was jets, helicopters, tanks, infantry vehicles such as the armored car and the quad bike. By the way, quad bike was way too slow. That was my personal opinion. You can let me know. But there was a problem with some exploits being used, such as the top of some of the mountains. Some people were trying to hide down on the lower side of the map and kind of ducking under the map, which I thought was, people are going to be people. But DICE also decided to respond to this and said that they are going to try to put height restrictions and try to battle these exploits in some way. I don't know the specifics. I didn't read into it, so if you know anything, let me know. Breakthrough on this map specifically, if you were placed on the wrong team, was a nightmare. I mean, the map was dubbed Sniper Valley for a reason, and DICE recognized this, and they wanted to address a more balanced win-loss ratio for the breakthrough on that map. We also got to play Siege of Cairo, based in Cairo, Egypt, which had a lot of large apartments lining the streets, and some tight corridors in the apartments, alleyways, and that main mid-street that was pretty much iconic for that map. I would consider this one a close to medium combat. They allowed us to use some tanks and armored cars for this specific map. There was another exploit, unfortunately. People figured out how to get up on top of the roofs and on the overpass that kind of goes over to one side of the map. DICE did say that they were also going to add some kind of height restriction on that map to prevent this from happening. And lastly, we had Iberian Offense, which was based in Gibraltar, with larger courtyards, tight streets, or tight alleys, and then winding streets. My bad. Close to mid combat. Again, tanks and armored cars. All in all, out of those three maps, I would have to say Iberian Offense would be my favorite. I don't know about you. Let me know in the comments. So, I would like to reiterate on these exploits. So, I would not consider myself angry or upset about these exploits being used. I mean, this is what the beta is actually for, is so that DICE can see the problem, see where the exploits are, see what the issues are, and then fix them before the launch. So, by all means, exploit away. I do believe it is kind of sad that some people need to use exploits to feel good at the game instead of actually taking the time and practicing and understanding the game with a little bit more emphasis. Uh, they did allow us to play 3 different game modes, technically 4, on the first weekend, which was Conquest. They gave us closed weapon and open weapon, which closed weapon means that they're restricted what guns you can use per class you choose, such as assault rifles have to use assault weapons. They cannot use sniper rifles or like LMGs, or recon. They use DMRs and snipers. They couldn't use assault rifles and shotguns, which I personally enjoy because it's the classic way Battlefield's always been. But they also allowed for open weapon because of, a lot of people are not a big fan of the closed weapon. They also gave us breakthrough and then squad deathmatch. I can't really say much about the squad deathmatch. I didn't play it much, but maybe someone has a good experience they might want to share. On weekend 2, the player count went almost twice as high with 525k. DICE expanded the servers and there still was a waiting list of like 50k at some points, which was like 10 to 15 minutes of wait time for me. They added Empire State map, which was based in New York, New York, with tall traversable buildings and a pre-decimated environment, which I thought was pretty cool. It was more of a close to mid combat style with no vehicle presence. Unfortunately, a lot of the community wasn't the biggest fan of this specific map, but then again, a lot of the community was really looking forward to the larger maps and the real Battlefield experience, or I should say, the more authentic Battlefield experience, excuse me. But the biggest concern was the fact that we were always getting pushed into the tight hallways and choke points, and it just seemed like a consistent meat grinder. Almost, quotes on that word because I've pretty much heard that 3 or 4 different times in different articles. DICE responded to this and asked us to go play some smaller medium maps on Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, just so you can kind of see the intensity curve that they were trying to relate to, because as we are all aware, they're trying to go back to their roots, and I can personally respect that. I feel every map has its own benefits, and you just have to adjust your playstyle accordingly to the map. But that's my personal opinion. They also added the rush mode, which, again, unfortunately had a lot of concerns. The scaled back player counts, and the fact that it just really wasn't satisfying to play. It seemed like it was really hard to be able to get, your 8 people or your 16 people. I can't remember. Did they do 32 or 16? I can't remember. But I know it was a lot less than 64. And with such a low number of people, it's hard to get pushed into the line, plant the bomb, and then hold it for long enough for to keep the enemy away from defusing the bomb. And I don't know, it just didn't seem like it was playing very well. DICE said this was actually intentional. I don't know what they're going on with this, but They also said that if you want to make larger scale rush modes, it'll be available in the portal section at launch. Okay, so moving on to the gameplay. Movement speed was definitely slower than Battlefield 2042, but I would say that it was a lot smoother to traverse over rubble and bolting over walls and through windows, and their roll feature whenever you're falling from a higher distance. Everything just seems to flow a little bit better. Your guy doesn't get stuck on little corners. Yeah, I really appreciated the smoothness of the game. The auto peek feature was messing with my aim so bad if I wound up getting a little too close to a corner. It would just sling me left and right, back and forth whenever I'm trying to just, get the guy right in front of me, And now I'm shooting to the left of him because I moved too close to the corner. But they also had an issue with the slide jump ratio. Like, if you wound up sliding up a pile of debris and then you jumped on top of that said pile of debris, you would accidentally launch yourself across the street. And I've seen this happen so many times. Someone would do something like that across the street and an enemy comes flying across and here he is right in front of my feet. And, you can't do anything but, get rid of him. So DICE actually noticed this whole slide jump problem, and they were also kind of upset to see how much of the Call of Duty-esque movement was going on in Battlefield, because, as you know, Battlefield tries to be completely separate from Call of Duty. But anyways, they decided that they're going to go ahead and reduce the horizontal momentum after a slide, if that makes sense. So now, whenever you slide and then you jump afterwards, you aren't going to move as far forwards from the position of the jump, if that makes sense. They also decided to put an increased penalty on the spam jumping, which I found appropriate considering some people were just going ham on them jumps, man. They were just hopping all over the map, and that I kind of found it amusing, but at the same time, I can see why DICE had to get rid of it. The sound design, now that is something to talk about. The buildings crumbling, like, that honestly, the sound was perfect. I've never heard a building full on crumble, but if there was a building to crumble next to me, I'm sure that's what it sounded like. The jets screaming, that's got to be one of my favorite parts. Like, the jets on Liberation Peak, whenever you're in mid firefight, fighting a tank with explosions, the buildings are falling, and then the fucking jet comes from above you, go, Phoo! It was just like, it just made it so immersive, and it just felt like a real deal Battlefield. The bullets whizzing past your head, hitting metal, hitting rocky surfaces, and you can hear the pinging noises. I found that to be just that little added something that just made the game feel more immersive. And obviously the destructibility. There was nothing more Battlefield than blowing up a house. You know what I mean? And I believe that DICE kind of pulled away from this in recent titles, but in Battlefield 6, it is so unique and exciting to watch and listen to. I've fallen in love with the whole destructibility again. I almost forgot about how important it used to be to Battlefield. But I will say this one thing. I find that the debris damage was a little underwhelming. I played 50 hours on the beta, and I've only been killed by debris one time, which is astonishing considering how many times I was in the second floor of an apartment and the whole damn building just fell on my head, and I just walk out with a scratch. So I hope that they actually build a little bit more debris damage. I don't want it to be like fucking Battlefield 1 where you wind up getting hit by one brick and you die, but still, I mean, it's got to be a little bit more realistic. And then lastly, but not least, the damn Dragon Revive feature is the most goated thing in the world. It makes all your revives feel like it's a cinematic rescue. You're about to go into the amazing war zone and you got to go help your buddy, pop some smokes, and you're fucking pulling your dude back around the corner while there's tanks blasting past you. and you barely pick your dude up, drop a med bag, dude. That shit, it just makes your heart start beating fast. And, your homie screaming at you like, yeah, But anyways, if anyone has any comments about the sound design, the movement, and the destructibility, let me know in the comments, because I would love to hear your opinions on everything, and maybe there's something I might have missed or didn't even notice. So, the class system is back. Like the OG one from Battlefield 4, you know what I mean? That it's all back. The assault, support, engineering, and recon. And it's pretty much the way it used to be. They kind of rearranged stuff, but it really wasn't all that big of a deal. So they got the assault class, right? They're the tip of the spear according to DICE, also known as the adrenaline junkies. I'll talk more about that later. Their specialty weapon trait was the assault rifle, which gave them the faster sprint to fire time and swap speed when using assault rifles. They were also given key features like reduced fall damage, reduced sprint recovery time, and then enhanced mobility, such as like vaulting across walls, over vehicles, through windows. For equipment, they were mostly given grenade launchers. I think there was just the explosive. I believe it was an impact style, and then the smoke grenade. I think I always used the impact style, so the smoke grenade wasn't really my thing. And then obviously the notorious M87A1 shotgun as a third weapon. I'll talk more about that shotgun later. And its most notable ability, so their active trait, was the adrenaline shot, which provided increased sprint speed, explosive damage resistance, and enhanced enemy footstep audio, so they can hear enemies more clearly whenever they're on the way, running around them, so on. So DICE decided to take the recon ability with the spawn beacon and decided to put a deploy beacon on the assault class instead, which kind of makes sense considering they're the tip of the spear. They're supposed to be right in the fight. So if they're right in the fight, they can possibly even get behind enemy lines, be able to put that deploy beacon, and your squad mates are now able to spawn behind enemy line, creating a two-front strategy. But we'll see how that all plays out. The deployable assault ladder. That one is kind of interesting, although I feel like a lot of people aren't going to use that for its full advantage. I find the deployable assault ladder a great way to be able to strategically be able to get to that second story building whenever people are camping the staircase, So moving on, we got the support class, which is obviously med and supplies. They are the backbone of the field. They're the guys that are going around picking up people in the thick of it and dragging people back to cover, throwing smoke grenades. They are the guys that you need to put all your trust into, because if a medic says they're on the way, they're going to be on the way. 95% of the time, if they indicated they're on the way, they will be there. Whether it be like right at the last second, they're going to make it. So make sure you put your trust into your medics. And vice versa, medics, make sure you pick up people. If there's someone standing at your feet, pick the motherfucker up. Moving on, they got key features such as the fast manual revive. So whenever they do the drag feature, it only takes like 2 or 3 seconds to pick up just about anyone, including squads and anyone that's not squads. They also were given enhanced mobility with LMGs, allowing them to keep pace with their comrades that have faster loadouts, such as the assault class. Their provided equipment was the health bag, the defibrillator, which was for instant revival. So if you saw a teammate down, you could just pull out the instant defibrillator and just walk up to him and just press the attack button and your teammate's up. But you had to make sure you were looking at the teammate. You could also charge these defibs up and use them to kill enemies, which there are plenty of videos out there about that. And they were also given the deployable cover, so you can, obviously deploy cover wherever you want. For their ultimate or their active ability, it was the resupply bag, which wasn't just an ammo bag. This bag can also replenish rockets. They can replenish grenades, bombs. I'm assuming deploy beacons, so on and so on. They can do, if it's equipment that the player uses consumably, that bag can actually replace it, which is fantastic because a lot of games actually don't allow that in recent Battlefields. And then moving on to the engineer class, they are armored control. They are the explosive expert. They're the guy that, shoots the rockets at the tanks and doesn't look at the explosion. Their specialty weapon, believe it or not, is actually the SMG, which I found kind of odd, but the more I think about it, it actually makes sense. Because if you're up against a tank, you put that first rocket shot at the tank, and then 3 guys just come piling out of the tank. Having increased hipfire control at close distance with an SMG could come in clutch in those kind of situations. They're also given extra rockets for their launcher. And on top of that, if you hit a tank, vehicle, any of that with your rocket, the damage dealt to the vehicle will actually take more time to repair, which I thought was pretty unique. They obviously come with the repair torch, which can be used to fix ally vehicles, but if you were sneaky enough, you can actually destroy enemy vehicles with it. It takes some time, so I'd recommend doing most of the damage and then sneaking up to them. So if you are out of rockets, it's a risky move to be able to get the tank to die, They also have anti-vehicle drop mines, which weren't the traditional kind of flat pancake you put in the middle of the road. These things were actually kind of like little mortars that were designed to shoot a projectile on top of the tank, which I thought was kind of unique because pretty much every game does the pancake style mine. All the previous Battlefields, as far as I can remember, all did something similar. Their passive ability was the flak jacket, which meant at just about any given time, I think you had to earn certain amount of points to be able to unlock said flak jacket every game. So it was similar to the passive or the active ability. But it was a passive ability, so every time you spawned in, you were just automatically with the flak jacket, which reduced incoming explosive damage, if I didn't already say that. And lastly, the active ability was the overloaded repair torch, which gave you the ability to significantly increase the repair time on allied repairs. Now, I do have a question for the community because I never actually looked this one up, but since I'm here recording, it's a good conversation. Would the overloaded repair torch also damage enemy vehicles faster? Does that make sense? Let me know in the comments. Last but not least, obviously we got Recon, the sniper. These guys are either the coldest player on the field or the lamest. If you got upset by that comment, then you know exactly who you are. Obviously, their special weapon was the sniper rifle, which as far as I'm concerned, they were only given reduced sway speed. They were given equipment, which was the motion sensor and then C4 explosives. Their active trait is the UAV, which circled the player anywhere the player may go, and it would auto spot enemies within a specific range. I don't know the numbers on that. Their most notable ability was the fatal headshot, which was a permanent down for anyone that became victim to it. Or they actually took away the respawn beacon from Recon and gave it to Assault with the deploy beacon. So we'll see how that all plays out. I feel like it kind of lessened the importance of Recon, but moving on, they also added something to Recon though, which was the Spec Ops ability, which will be a new kind of skill tree, in which it should still have the UAV as its active trait, but the other skills, I think it comes with 4 skills or 3 skills and then the active trait on the skill tree. But I think the other three are going to be slightly different. One in particular will be quieter takedowns, and then spotting enemy equipment faster, as far as I'm concerned. So let's move on to gunplay. The recoil seemed to be too forgiving in my opinion, and actually DICE agreed with this statement, and they decided to increase the reward on tap fire and burst fire, which in my opinion is a great idea because you should be a little bit more strategic and conservative with your ammo. Snipers also got a lot of changes after the beta. So now they offer a sweet spot range. For instance, with the M2010 ESR, which is now allowed a sweet spot range of 70 meters to 110 meters. So this means that if you hit someone in center mass within that specific distance range, it'll count as a one-hit kill, which I think is a great idea for myself, considering I'm not a very good shot with snipers, and getting that headshot can definitely be a pain in the ass. I do not claim to be a good sniper, but this could also be, on the flip side of the coin, extremely pain in the ass for any of those super badass snipers that can just fucking snapshot all day long. Snipers also can no longer get one-hit kills within 10 meters. So there's no more close combat sniper quick scopes and blah blah blah. As another thing they changed, they also made it to where the chin, cheek, neck, and upper arm will not count for fatal headshots, which kind of makes sense, but in my opinion, you fuck around and get shot in the chin, your ass is dead. Like 90% of the time, I'm pretty sure you're dead, especially if you're in mid-combat. But that's my opinion. They also made changes to the M87A1 shotgun, which was notoriously lenient on accuracy. You didn't really need to get the whole shotgun shell into the enemy to make it a kill, like in previous games. DICE has decided to increase the required amount of pellets to get the kill. So now you're going to have to be a little bit more accurate with the shotgun, but it's still a shotgun, so it's going to be a monster no matter which way you look at it. DICE is investigating the time to kill to time to death ratio, which is actually kind of new. I've never really heard of people talking about time to death too much up until recent years or recent games, and mostly people talk about the time to kill, but considering we've also got an issue with the quote-unquote magic bullet, which is whenever the game doesn't recognize that you're actually getting hit, and while you're getting attacked, all of a sudden all this damage will register on your screen all at the same time, and essentially you got killed by a carbine with one bullet, and that was definitely kind of a pain in the ass, because how can you react to something that you don't know is happening? But if there is anything I missed on the gameplay or the gunplay changes, let me know in the comments below, because I would like to make another video that compiles everything that I missed, which would be kind of convenient on my sake. Other than that, let's go ahead. So I would like to talk a little bit about Battlefield Labs. DICE has actually responded to the concerns about the maps being a little too small and confirmed that they are actually in the works with larger maps on Battlefield Labs. So people are going to be playtesting these maps. Not only playtesting the maps, but playtesting the maps with larger player counts. So I'm assuming they're going to talk about like 128, player games like in 2042. You can actually still sign up for these Battlefield Lab playtests on the EA website and join the crucial development process. I'll share a link in the description below. For those of you that are actually in these playtests, I ask you to please pay attention and speak out whenever there's something wrong. Let the developers know that there's something that doesn't feel right, feels, ratioed. Maybe pay attention to some of the other concerns from the beta, and just let the developers know whether or not they're doing a good job. You guys are the voices of the community, and if it wasn't for you guys being honest and putting out there your best effort, as long as, alongside with the developers, we wouldn't have the game that came out for us during the beta. And I would like to thank you guys for your proverbial services and commitment to the game, because if it wasn't for you, DICE and EA wouldn't be able to produce the game that they have right now. So thank you, and keep doing a good job. And on that note, it is the closing scene. Unfortunately, the curtain has closed, the lights are on, your mind is now full of the freshest info that I have to offer. This is the time that on your way out, go ahead and like, subscribe so you don't miss the next show, and give that bell on your screen a big old goodnight kiss. And, if you need me, I'll be on the place down under, also known as the chat section or the comment section. Let's chat. What was your favorite part? What was your least favorite part? Is there any info that I might have missed? Do you like green beans, or are you a sweet corn person? I don't know. Let's chat. I'll see you down there. Until next time, folks. Good night. I am signing off.